Welcome to the 4 Mile Circus podcast. 4 Mile Circus is an independent media services company in Brooklyn, New York. My name is Shawn Mannion. I am one of the hosts of the podcast, one half of 4 Mile Circus, and this is...
I'm Nicole Solomon. I am the other half of 4 Mile Circus and the other host of this podcast.
And I'm Shawn Setaro. I'm the third half of No, I'm not the third half of 4 Mile Circus.
Wait for your intro.
I'm just here to hang out.
That's not how halves work. That's not how halves work.
Wait till we get the new math, like the new math that I'm sure is going to be coming with our new...
Trump math? Oh, with DeVos math?
Yeah. DeVos was just confirmed today. We're all really excited about that.
Exactly. 2 plus 2 is 5 because you can't forget to add in Jesus.
Nice. So, yeah, we've got Shawn Setaro on the show today. Shawn Setaro is the host of the acclaimed hip-hop podcast, The Cipher, and writes for Forbes and Complex and all sorts of places, and does music sometimes, like for my award-winning film Small Talk, which you can get at 4milecircus.com/store. Many of those awards that it won were for its score, which Shawn Setaro here composed for it.
With the help of some very talented musicians who were kind enough to lend their performing and engineering and producing services.
Would you like to say their names? Because they'd appreciate that more.
Sure. I think, we had Satish on trumpet, whose last name I've known him for years. I still don't know. He keeps that very, very close to the vest. So Satish on trumpet. The great Brian Viglione, good friend and better drummer on drums for much of the things, including a key opening scene. Eric Feigenbaum and Brian Penny doing a lot of the producing and engineering work. Am I forgetting anyone?
No, that's everybody.
That's the key. Yeah.
That's, just you're going to be like, all these awesome people. They're awesome and mysterious, and you cannot know.
And Jeff, that one guy who would just stand in the back of the studio while you guys were recording and go like, ugh.
Well, fuck Jeff. Anyway, so that's Shawn, and he's going to talk to us today, and we're going to talk about things like Patreon and making work sustainable and stuff like that. But before we do any of that, Shawn Mannion, I think, has a tip.
I do. I have a tip. A crowdfunding tip.
Ooh.
It's very exciting. A crowdfunding tip. And you know what? I feel like it's a little bit of a life tip, too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
This is deep.
Throw a party.
What?
Yeah, throw a party, man.
Like out the window?
No.
Like take the Democrats and throw them out the window?
Oh, no.
Frustrated right now.
We're on politics now. Yeah, let's do that. Let's throw all the parties out the window. Okay. No parties. Everybody has to run as a shitty individual.
I mean,
which is
we could
actually
have a conversation about this.
Which is actually how people vote anyway. But just to be on point maybe for a second. So you're preparing for your crowdfunding campaign, but with everything going on in the world at any given time, it's really tough to get people to pay attention across social media. Crowdfunding campaigns have become so ubiquitous. It just sometimes feels like no one could notice it, like ever. Nobody gives a crap about anything except for the stuff that they're supposed to give a crap about right now, and they don't.
Or their own shit. People care about their own shit.
Yeah, somebody broke their leg, or their mom yelled at them, or their boss just keeps showing up without pants. We all got weird shit going on in our lives, and you can't always pay attention to your friend's crowdfunding campaign. So one way to solve this with your own personal network, which is, I think we've said before, really where the bulk of your support is going to come from. And to get them all more excited about it is to throw a party. So when you throw the party, and who you invite is totally dependent on the campaign that you're doing and who you are as a person. So for some, your launch party is going to be an ideal. You're going to want to throw that right at the beginning of the campaign. Invite everybody to show up at your place or some location that you have on hand and celebrate going live with the campaign. For other people, a mid-campaign party to help lift your campaign during that slump in the middle. There's always a slump in the middle.
There is. It's true. Most action's going to be at the beginning and the end.
Yep. Because everybody's like, everybody's really excited at the beginning. And at the end, they're like, oh, God, I got to help you. In the middle, they're like, oh, I got time.
You're like, oh, that's a thing that's going on. That's not, yeah.
Exactly. It's hard to maintain the pressure in the middle.
Except the pressure in your chest if it's your crowdfunding campaign, because you'll be feeling the pressure for the full duration of that campaign.
Absolutely. It's going to be miserable. And for the rest of you, you may want to party to celebrate your successful completion of the campaign at the end. The point isn't necessarily when you throw the party, it's how you use the party to lift the campaign. First of all, you should have the party planned well before launching the campaign, no matter when it's coming in the campaign. Doesn't matter if it's going to be at the end. You should know what you're doing, when you're doing it, who you're inviting, everything about it, before you hit the button that says go live. Just like with all of the things about your campaign, you should have a plan.
Because your brain's not going to be fucking working once you're in the middle of it.
No, you're gonna be freaking out. And
you're not going to be sleeping.
Even if it's going well. I know plenty of people who've had even campaigns that like hit their goal in like the first week. It's still stressful after that. There's no time that it's not stressful. So you want to have the party on the network's radar well ahead of when you're throwing the party. And it's going to help you build that awareness around the campaign. So if it's starting the campaign, you're inviting all your friends to it weeks ahead of time so that they know that there's a campaign coming weeks ahead. All right. Second, give people a reason to be sharing the party on social media while they're there. This could be a performance or a game or some wacky stunt. Preferably not something where, super dangerous. Like, it's okay to, like, I don't know, like, set somebody on fire, but don't set them on fire on a motorcycle.
I have a crowdfunding question for the crowdfunding experts here.
Yes. It's about motorcycles and fire?
Mostly. So what do you do to keep people engaged in a crowdfunding campaign if it happens to be an overwhelming success? Like, say, like you meet your goal in the first week, right?
Uh-huh.
How do you still keep people excited? Like, what tips you have to be like, well, now how to like literally adjust expectations on the fly when you've probably spent weeks or months planning expectations and goals.
I mean,
there's stretch goals, which is a strategy to have if you're expecting to reach your goal ahead of the end of the campaign, which sometimes people plan for. You have like, if we can get to this point, we can do this thing on top of it. Because any campaign is always going to be about the minimum that we need to get the job done. And so you put in stretch goals where you say, like, okay, we were raising $5,000 so that we could make this short film. But if we raise $10,000, we can do it on this camera, or we can hire this person, or we can use this location, or we can do, you give an incentive there. One way to keep like the people who are giving more interested, or maybe to give a little more or something like that, is also to build in activities or fresh content for them. It's really just about continuing at your campaign and being able to say, like, okay, now we've hit that goal. Here's how we're going to take that and take it to like the next level. Like, we can do more stuff for you now during the campaign because we know we're going to hit the goal. So we're going to do some cool stuff. We'll I guess if you're doing a film, maybe we'll shoot a scene ahead or do an exclusive Q&A, because if you've got that kind of support, like right out of the gate, that's good. I mean, you probably don't want to set your goal at like $1,000 and then be successful and then not be able to make the film at all because you only have $1,000 and you need 10 to do it. But I think it's all about like providing more incentive for people, and those stretch goals, like showing what you can do if you go beyond. Like, we could do the minimum before, now we can do like 10 times more.
Yeah, or you can go into areas that maybe your crowdfunding campaign wasn't going to cover, like festival fees and things like that, promotional budget that a lot of times filmmakers don't take into account when they're raising money just to get the film made.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, like, when in doubt, you can turn it into a fundraiser.
Absolutely.
You can donate a portion of the additional funds you get to an organization that has something to do with your work. Like, I believe About a Donkey, which is an independent film that's crowdfunding right now. By the time you hear this, hopefully it will have successfully completed that campaign and maybe even have successfully completed principal photography, depending. There, I believe, if they go over their goal, I think they're donating a portion to the Trevor Project, I think, because that's a LGBT, I think
This is a project from Christina Rea, our first guest.
Yes, you can listen to the very first episode of this podcast to hear her talk. But there are various LGBT characters, or at least LG. I don't know if there's any BT in that film, and so they're donating a portion to affiliated. Somebody jump in. Stop just looking at me like that. You're looking at me like, what the
I don't know
fuck
where you're
are
going.
you talking about?
So they're donating a portion of if they go over to some cause that is related to the LGBT community and the fact that the film has it's
LG characters.
LG characters and
Maybe
the
BT
writer
that I'm
is.
forgetting.
But yeah, so there's a lot you could potentially do with that, and I think it's just about like figuring out like why you were successful to start off with, and then like how do you build on that, or how do you leverage that for something that helps what you're working on. So yeah, but
And we should all be so lucky as to have that problem.
I mean,
For
I've known a couple
serious.
people.
I'm like, I can figure out some things to do with some money. That's
I mean, I've known people who've done it, and the reason that they did it is the same reason that like somebody like LeVar Burton was so quickly successful with the Reading Rainbow thing. It's not even necessarily what they're doing as much as Reading Rainbow was super popular with people in my age group who had money. It's also that they had like a following already. They weren't like and a substantial following, and then a substantial following that included people who had influence and who could get people and who wanted it to be successful and pushed it with them as well. And so every time I've seen that, it's always been the case of somebody who has a following, who has at least they're at least like semi-famous, and they picked a reasonable goal that they could hit, that they figured, okay, I can hit this in 30 days and this will allow me to do my thing. And then
they catch a wave.
And then they catch the wave because people are like, oh, I super want to see you do this because I really like your stuff. And so that's part of that audience building that we talk about. These people had an audience to begin with, and then when you see things like, again, LeVar Burton, I don't know why he's always the example that pops into my head, but like he has an audience, and he has like a massive audience because of how he intersects with all these different communities. And so, like, that's why they're successful, is because people want to see what they're doing because they already have that audience. But speaking of audience, so parties, you want to invite the audience to the party, or at least a portion of your potential audience to the party, which is probably like friends, family, neighbors, people in your general community, and you want to have them have a reason to share this party on like social media and around.
Do you collect money at the party?
That's my third point on it, is that you want to use the party to also boost the campaign, and you can use the party to collect. Maybe you have a laptop or like an iPad or something out, and people can donate that way, or you even just have a bucket for cash and you have somebody assigned at the party, like, so we're going to collect the money, you can put it in your bank account, and then you donate it to the campaign before the end of the campaign, or however it is you want to do it. And then you just have to be a little bit upfront with people who are at the party, where it's like, if you give us cash, like, we can't quite fulfill the same incentives the same way. Like, donate on the website and you've got a chance to do that, but otherwise it's tough to track that sort of thing, right? So but yeah, it's a great opportunity for sort of attacking the campaign in a multifaceted fashion, is both getting your core audience and the friends and all that, like, into the idea of what you're doing, getting them involved, and then making them advocates by giving them something to share at the party, whatever is going on. Even if they're just like, hey, we're at a party and we have a sign. I've seen that one before, where they just have like a sign for the show and they have people take pictures with it, or whatever it is, and then then it's collecting money there. It's making sure that is putting money into the campaign as well, and probably taking the hit on whatever the costs of the party were, because
So
there's
make
going to
it
be
cheap.
costs. Yeah, make it cheap. Just
Steal
like
those Cheetos.
steal the Cheetos, steal the beer.
Beer? Just water. I'm having a water party. That sounds more fun than what I meant. I just meant a party where the beverages are just water.
No. Do you not know? Okay, so for fundraising people, listen, you get people drunk. You know why you get people drunk? Because people who are
Spend
drunk
money.
are generous, and they spend money and they don't pay attention, and that's not your fault.
No, it's true.
It's
I've tried.
if you're not even crowdfunding. If you're running a nonprofit,
Definitely, if you're running a nonprofit.
you get some high proof booze. You don't tell them it's that high proof, and then you make sure that they're all just drunk enough they want to give you money, but not so drunk you can't read the check. And then you make them write the check. You just keep people happy, you keep them drunk, and then they write the check.
It lubricates the wallet.
Exactly. Much better than water. Water is a terrible lubricant.
No, it is. Maybe this is why I haven't been so successful with my crowdfunding campaign parties.
Exactly. You needed to be giving them the whiskey. Tell them it's beer, and they're like, "This beer tastes like whiskey."
It's special beer. Special beer, not so foamy. But drink the whole mug. It gets better.
Imagined a pint glass of whiskey and felt a little sick.
I'm fairly certain that would kill somebody.
Yeah.
All right.
Which, depending on your strategy,
Right.
Speaking of
are
killing
you
people,
in someone's will?
Yeah.
speaking of killing people, we have our guest.
Hey. Oh.
And I'm sure we have more questions, and that I have talked way too much about parties.
We've got questions. Sean's
About parties?
maybe we'll get there. My first question is about Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
You have one.
I have one.
How's that going?
It's going okay. Could be better, certainly.
Tell me more. I'm a good interviewer. I learned it from watching you.
Yeah. So,
Okay, continue.
all right. So Patreon, I want to say first off, the people at the company are great. They are very easy to talk to, even if you're not a big shot. They are very easy to reach out to, very helpful. It is a great platform in that, you can get support for, ongoing support for something you're doing.
Can you explain very briefly how
yes.
it works? Just very briefly.
Yeah, Patreon, basically people who like your stuff can sign up to give you a repeating amount of money every, per thing or per month, depending on how you have it set up. And you can, much like a crowdfunding campaign, offer rewards for different tiers of recurring payments. But it's the recurringness that separates it from a crowdfunding campaign.
It's as if the people who donate via Patreon become your patrons.
Yes. It's taking the the king pays for, or the Medici's pay for Michelangelo to paint or whatever, and just saying, okay, now it's the crowd instead of some prince somewhere.
I mean, it could still be a prince.
It could still be a
Someday
prince.
your prince will come.
Keep believing, Sean.
Yeah.
I can see that I saw that little spark of hope. It was
Yeah.
an unfamiliar sight.
I know.
But it's how people use it is interesting. Some people will donate $1 or $2 just to say, hey, I like what you're doing. It's cool. Some people will be very generous and, donate, a score or two of dollars because they have the money and appreciate what you do. It completely varies.
A score is 20.
Yes. Yeah, score is 20 for our non... is that metric or...
No, I don't think
No?
it's metric. I'm fairly certain it's just old.
Okay.
So they're paying you in 20s, is what we're
How many hogsheads in a score?
Right.
Just kidding.
So this Patreon is specifically for the Cipher show, as opposed to your other works. Listeners of the Cipher patronize you via it. What kind of rewards do these people get?
So It varies. We have, giant stickers that we'll send out at a certain price point. But the main thing that we offer to everyone, if you give us even just $1, are bonus episodes. And what those are just, bits of conversation that happen before or after the actual interview. Often, while, after we wrap and we're just kind of talking and, stuff will come up. Like someone will have, Darlene Ortiz, who was Ice-T's wife and is the model on his famous early album covers, had a great story about, her son meeting Paul Simon. And it was told, after the interview was over while we were just talking. And, we ended up using that as a bonus, or, it'll be something as simple as, maybe lately I've been trying to get this in a little more organized fashion, and that I'll sort of grab someone and say like, hey, we didn't get to this, but can you tell us, a funny story about, this thing that didn't fit in the context of the interview? Or sometimes it'll just be, the latest one is one of the things on it is, me and a famous DJ chatting about vegan restaurants. So, it completely varies. But having these bonus moments is the bonus episodes is the sort of the primary thing. And then there's other stuff on top of that.
I just want to clarify that those giant stickers you talked about are high quality vinyl decals of the sort you put on the back of your computer, like your laptop. They're like laptop cover stickers.
Yes. Very high quality vinyl decals.
It's not just a giant sticker that you're like, what do I do with this? Do I put it on my car? Now I can't see out the back window.
Oh, are they that big?
Well, I mean, they're
like a head size.
They're like, they'll take up most of the back of your laptop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to describe it because you were gesturing with your hands and nobody can see that.
Maybe I have more faith in our listeners than you do, Shawn.
So
They know what I mean.
Listen to the movement of the air around the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, continue.
But one thing about Patreon is, for me as someone who hosts a show, where to talk about it can be difficult. When we first got it, we put it at the top of the show. But if you mention the website and the social media and, here's a back catalog episode that's similar to the one you're listening to, and make sure to check out the show notes online, the intro to the show crept up to like the 5-minute range, and it was just too long. So we had to bump some of that stuff, including Patreon, to kind of the back end of the show.
That's it. So when you say where to talk about it, you mean specifically in the show, but what about other places to talk about it too?
Other places, certainly social media is big, mentioning it on the show's socials and, letting people know it exists is also obviously very important.
What's been effective for you in terms of getting people to donate via Patreon, in terms of talking about it on the show or external to the show, or any particular campaigns you've done with it to try to drive up patrons? What's working?
I would say, mentioning it on the show, it seems, has been the primary driver. It is a mix of that and interacting with people online, even if I don't mention the Patreon specifically.
How do you mean?
That if I talk to someone who is a fan or even is an acquaintance and likes the show, the more I interact with them, the more likely I find sometimes that they are willing to, that they do end up being a patron. There seems to be a overlap there.
It's interesting because so many people are using Patreon these days, many of whom have other sources of income related to the work that they're also distributing through Patreon. It seems like to me, like their well, maybe not the exact work, maybe patrons get exclusive stuff, but like you as a podcast host, we'll get to other streams of income, of which there are not many, in a minute. But like, I mean, you and Josh basically for a very long time have been doing this without any outside financial support whatsoever.
Right.
It's a free show. Like, all the episodes are free. It's not that you have paid subscribers who get access to the archives or anything like that. It's all free to listen to, and it's, obviously you don't charge people to come on your show or something. So
Right.
There's no money being generated.
Sometimes people ask for that. but we have never said yes.
No, but they ask for it. They don't offer to give you money
That's
to appear
true.
on your show.
That's
It's
true.
not a pay-to-play.
They ask for money. Yes.
This reminds me, it's $75 a minute. Sorry.
So, I mean, and a lot of work goes into producing the show on your part. You know, I can testify that Shawn spends many, many, many hours researching every single episode he does. And there's a new episode every week on top of the time you spend, just, the logistics, scheduling, that stuff, which is another whole time suck. And to say nothing, obviously, of like the networking and things you need to do to even gain access to have guests on your show. But so you spend a lot of time every week on this show. You're not getting paid for it pretty much, besides what comes in through Patreon. So it's a pretty clear-cut logic there. If somebody likes the show and for instance, I give $1 a month to Sleep With Me podcast because I listen to it. Or, well, listen might be the wrong word. I fall asleep to it many times a week, like at least as often as not, pretty much. And so when they were doing a Patreon fundraising campaign where they were mentioning it at the top of every show and saying, if you can afford it, no problem. If you can't, it was a low pressure. It wasn't a like guilt trippy thing. But like if you're using the show, think about what it's worth to you. And if it's worth it to you to just pay $1 a month for it. If we could get X percentage of our audience to all give just $1 every month, that would help make this sustainable, because the host of this podcast similarly spends hours and hours and hours and hours every week, that he's not getting paid for outside of Patreon, and at the time was doing that on top of a full-time job. You similarly have various jobs. I was like, that makes sense. I'll pay $1 a month for a podcast that I listen to every single episode of. That's fair. And, more people should do it.
More people should do it. Patreon.com/The Cipher Show. Check it out.
You don't have a video, though.
No, I don't have a video.
Can you tell us about that?
I don't really have a good answer. I should have one, but I don't know. It seems intimidating to be like, say, hey, this is me and here's the thing. And, I don't know.
It's too bad you don't have a video producer living in your home with you. It's just too bad that Cha-Cha, our cat, is no good at producing videos.
It's true.
Can't consult with you.
He can't even turn a camera on, so I don't know what you're expecting.
Well, I think
he might by accident.
No, he can. He can tweet too. He can post to Facebook. He's done it a few times on my behalf. But he's not necessarily going to be able to do the video that's going to give you what you need. Mm-hmm. So just saying, that's just a shame.
Right.
It's a crying shame.
Right.
That there's nobody you can talk to about it.
It's true. With very reasonable prices.
So if any listeners are in a similar boat and they just don't know what to do with their Patreon video and it's intimidating to them and all their ideas for how they might be able to
go to 4 Mile Circus.
Yeah, that's where I was going with this.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're psychic or something. So yeah, that's a thought. Mm-hmm. So what do you think you could be doing better besides having a video?
I think that I could reach out on a sort of personal level more frequently to people and say, hey, this is my main thing, no pressure, but,
Which people? Listeners?
No, like actual, real life friends, be it, on sort of personal social media accounts as opposed to show ones or whatever. I have had, a reluctance to do that in part because I want it to be like, people who support the show will like this thing. So through the outlets of the show, it makes sense. But I've been a little shyer about like, reaching out on personal stuff where it will also get, people I went to high school with and my aunt and, whatever. So
that's true. I think you also could be doing more, quite frankly, with your audience, though, in terms of doing more the kind of like set a goal and then tell people the goal. And then people will have that incentive of wanting to help you reach the goal who might not give you $1 a month. Otherwise be like, oh, if he's only, 25 people away from reaching his goal, I'll give $1 a month. I can afford $1 a month for this show I listen to every episode of. Things like that.
That is a great idea.
That's
reaching
that's
goals.
A free tip.
That's a great tip.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you. I might start that off today.
and I was Instagram living that. So now,
Wow.
like 5 people that joined for like 10 seconds. You never know when we could be on Instagram Live, so stay on Instagram like all the time.
Yeah, totally.
All
Do
the
that.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I do.
Never leave Instagram.
Wow.
Anyway.
That got
intense.
That got intense. So, like, aside from Patreon, some podcasts have sponsors.
They do.
I've heard this.
We have.
Not ours. Ours does not have.
I'm familiar with that. It's funny because I need to build a website, and I have to say Squarespace is incredibly convenient and easy to use.
Oh, yeah? With Squarespace, is that squarespace.net?
I believe it is.
Squarespace.tv? Are you sure?
No, I'm pretty sure it's squarespace.eu.
Right. And when I shave, which is, I shave sometimes, definitely, I find that bevel is best for coarse and
Bevel?
coarse and sensitive skin. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
absolutely.
I have sensitive skin.
Yeah.
Bevel, you say? Mm-hmm. Maybe you could say it
B-E-V-E-L?
again.
Bevel. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I occasionally shave parts of my face. Not much of it, but like parts of it.
We can talk about shaving on our show. Also, we can play at this game.
I have so much shaving that I could be doing. We could shave me on the show.
And you could
With,
perhaps read an audiobook or listen to an audiobook about it.
Oh yeah,
Right.
totally.
Yeah.
I could listen to an audiobook about shaving from where can I get an audiobook?
I believe you can find them at audible.com.
Audible.com. Okay.
how do I connect? How do I share all of this great information with my email list? Though is my question.
Yeah, I need. You know what? Yeah, I have a list of emails, but where can I send stuff from?
I believe, you can connect and send emails and all sorts of other stuff on MailChimp.
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 Mailcamp. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Mailcamp.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, you were saying about sponsors or podcasts? I don't really know anything about that.
yeah, do you, well, what's your experience been? What's your experience been with that? Have you ever had a sponsor?
We have had sponsors. A sponsor. We had a headphone company who, because they aren't paying us anymore, shall remain nameless.
Oh. No, they're good headphones.
They're superb headphones.
She told me about the headphones.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit! When I was looking up headphones, I heard about these, and they're like the most amazing headphones ever.
They are great.
They're great headphones.
They're great.
I've listened. To
And we connected with them, and we thought a kind of premium audio product would make sense and kind of go with the brand. And we did a few ads, and they gave us some lovely headphones. And it did not lead to a lasting relationship, unfortunately, for us, and I think for them, although, that's just my opinion. But that was our first experiment with ads. I am not, constitutionally or philosophically opposed to it, but it hasn't yet been the right opportunity. There've been a few offers here and there, but it hasn't been anything yet that has made me think this is worth the interruption to the show. This is worth the time it would take up on the show. This is worth, whatever squeamishness I would feel about the product or whatever. Like, we had there have been products that have offered to advertise that I haven't felt 100% comfortable with. And I was like, I don't really know if it's worth the interruption and my own squeamishness for, what they're offering.
Exactly. This episode brought to you by Trump Steaks.
Exactly.
You'll never want to eat another kind of steak or another Trump steak after having one.
Exactly. You'll never want to eat again.
You'll never want to eat again. Yeah.
Only from the sharper image.
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
Frozen steaks, man. I haven't eaten meat since I was probably 21 years old, but that sounds so horrifying.
What, frozen steaks?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've gotten I can't remember what it was from. It was from some meal service thing that somebody had signed us up for. Somebody got us, my wife, for like Christmas. It's like, oh, I got you like the thing, and it comes with like 4 steaks or something, and they're frozen. And the way they freeze them is not so bad. You got to thaw it, but it's not so bad.
I don't think that's what they did with Trump steaks.
No, it's Trump. It's so tacky. It's like, no, they probably like coated it in gold, froze it, and then like took the gold off. because they're not going to give you the gold. He's going to keep the gold and make a toilet out of it.
Right. So one great detail, by the way, last episode I talked about my favorite thing, which is this Times article about the disastrous first couple weeks of the Trump presidency. One detail that a lot of people haven't been commenting on, but that I loved, is that he put up new drapes in the Oval Office.
This was good.
And he told people that they were from Franklin Roosevelt.
They're gold drapes.
Gold drapes.
That wasn't obvious.
And he said, "Oh, these are, Roosevelt had these, but they didn't. They were made for Bill Clinton."
Of course,
he can't stop lying even about that.
I don't think he knows.
Somebody was probably like, "Yeah, they're Roosevelt." Roosevelt.
I mean, he can't read. Let's be honest.
He looked at the pictures of those drapes, though.
Yeah.
He's like, I like these ones, and that guy looks like Roosevelt. That's Clinton. You know him. I think it's Roosevelt.
Probably thinks he golfed with Roosevelt.
Oh God, he does. It was Frederick Douglass too. Three of them.
Right.
Hey,
when are you guys having Frederick Douglass on the podcast, by the way?
A lot of
his social media presence is pretty hot these days. He's trending. He's trending and stuff. Yeah.
A lot of people are really like coming to appreciate
recognizing him more and more.
Yeah, they're recognizing him like on the street. They're like, there he is. It's like John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. It's like, his name is my name too.
Yeah.
Frederick Douglass. His name is my name too. He doesn't have enough syllables to make this song work.
That was great.
Wow. It's a
good thing you're not still Instagramming live. Somebody would probably save that and
steal that, man. Yeah. This is gold right here. Comedy Trump plated gold.
Trump plated. Oh God, gold is tacky now.
And on that note,
on tackiness.
Yeah, actually, kind of. In terms of trying to make money.
Yes.
So you're a white guy. Mm-hmm. Did you know?
I think I was aware of that. Yeah.
And you do a podcast that is about primarily Black art form.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious about how that affects how you think about monetizing or not monetizing your show.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is a great question, he said, stalling slightly. I think,
maybe also as somebody who's seen other for-profit endeavors in the past that were run by white people profiting off of Black art forms, and sometimes there's ways to do that can be pretty fucked up.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And rightly criticized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, the whole experience of the show is devoted to sort of cataloging and archiving what is, as you correctly pointed out, like a form of music, a form of culture primarily started by Black and brown people. All kinds of people have played key roles from the very beginning, including white people. That's certainly true, and that is another thing that, this show deals with in some respect. But yeah, it is a music, a culture primarily created by and for, at least in its initial stages, young Black and brown people. I feel on a basic level like this show is a lot of work, and I do it, and it's really good, and I would love to have that be, and I feel like it just should, if it is something I'm able to be remunerated for, I should be.
Put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, put a lot of work into it, and work should ideally not be free. Labor should not be free. So in that respect, I think, sure, I deserve to get paid for it. It's my show. It's Josh's show. We do it. But, if it comes to a point where it is making money, yes, we owe, something to the communities that make this possible. Now, what form will that take? I don't know. We're not making much money on Patreon right now. You can see it if you go to patreon.com/The Cipher Show.
Yeah, luckily you don't have to cross this bridge yet, because you're pretty far from turning that.
Right. We are covering our barest expenses at this point, just in terms of the actual production of the show. I don't know what form that will take. Will that take a form of, an actual monetary donation? Will that take the form of, events? Will that take the form of, if it gets to the point where we are employing people, we have to we have to think very carefully about who we employ. We have thought a lot about the people we have had interning for the show over the years. These are all things to keep in mind. I think just in life, as a white person operating in a space of Black music, it's important for me never to be comfortable. That is often, and there will be plenty of opportunities for me to be comfortable because all kinds of people don't want other people to be uncomfortable. So there are plenty of places I can go in and operate and, not be challenged and not have people say, oh, it's weird. Why are you here? What are you doing? Because again, people don't like making people feel bad. So yeah, maybe Shawn does, but I should not feel comfortable, and I should feel a little bit like, what the hell am I doing? Pretty much all the time.
That seems responsible. Do you have another question about that? Because I have another question that popped into my head that's a tangent.
Yeah, go ahead. I've got a couple little things we can get to, but go for it.
Okay, because this is just a general crowdfunding question, because it's from the other perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are like roommates or something. And Nicole has done a crowdfunding campaign.
Yes.
What is it like living with somebody doing a crowdfunding campaign? Like, what kind of experience is that for you and like for other people who maybe are living with somebody who is doing a crowdfunding campaign, or maybe somebody who's doing a crowdfunding campaign who happens to live with another person who isn't involved with it? Like, what is helpful in terms of like staying sane or supporting the person that is, going through all that shit? If that question made any sense.
It does make a lot of sense. A lot of listening and a lot of, actually trying to figure out what you can do that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And being willing to, I think even go, help to push in ways that, maybe even me, just kind of being willing to do stuff, even if it's kind of above and beyond a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You met one-on-one. You had a handful of like one-on-one conversations with backers, some of whom were major backers of the campaign, because they were your contacts. You were the person who was friends with them or relatives with them who really knew them. And so you acted as an ambassador of my campaign, basically. Like, rather than having me go meet with them, like, you went and spoke on behalf of the project because they were your contacts, where you had the stronger relationship. And that's how I got a few of the most major donations, was through you doing that. And I think it was that you had those actual conversations either in person or over the phone, not just like tweeting at somebody.
Right. So yeah, I think being willing to reach out to people in your personal network. And, part of that I think is just really, believing in the thing, because people can sense that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you're doing it out of obligation, that's
People
nice, and it won't get you kicked out of your house, but people can sense that and it won't work.
I think that's a good point.
You also probably did some liquor runs for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I bought the bottle of champagne that we opened the last night.
Yeah, that's true. You did.
Which we had the cork. Do you still have the cork? We had the cork for a while.
I think I still have the cork in my office somewhere. Yeah, we thankfully were able to pop the champagne when we actually met the goal like 2 minutes before the campaign closed or something. It was a real horse race at the end there.
Well, the good thing about booze is it can be used for both celebration and oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Champagne's a bad oh my god.
Yeah.
Not if you drink it straight out of the bottle. Everything works for oh my god if you drink it straight out of the bottle.
And that's been a bonus tip from Shawn Mannion.
Yeah.
How to drink. I'm going to start my own separate podcast.
How to drink?
Just how to drink.
Can I be a guest sometimes?
Yeah.
As an example of how not to drink?
We're just going to... Yeah, but you have to drink on the podcast.
There could be a game where you just give me whiskey and then set me up on Facebook and then check back at the end and see what happened.
Nudge you to say like, hey, this person just said something that you should look at. What? Click, 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 click. like half the episode is going to be the sounds of typing. Anyway.
That sounds like a really stressful podcast. So yeah, those are some things. Do you have more on that question?
No, it occurred to me that was sort of a different perspective that we haven't really talked to anybody about before.
Yeah.
So
I mean, although I haven't, I have, am dealing with Patreon, but I have never done a crowdfunding campaign. Right. But I have been around them, with Nicole's. I have, in both a friend and journalistic position, have talked to people who have been involved in major, 6-figure crowdfunding campaigns.
Yeah.
So, it's been funny to see it from those and smaller ones, 4 and 5-figure ones as well. On the journalistic side, talking to people, but, seeing the, getting the in-depth things on the big ones has been fascinating.
I bet.
Yeah.
So you said you had another question, then we can play a game. I'm very excited about this game.
I was going to ask about your writing work, about like how much paid versus unpaid writing work you do and how you get paid writing work for our listeners at home we had Jocelyn Linder, author of The Family Gene, on the show recently. You probably will have heard that by the time you hear this. And she talked a bit about making a living as a working writer. And that's a thing you do actually get paid for, more so than your podcast. And
yes.
How do you do that?
There are a couple different outlets. I have built up a contact of a few people, over the years, so I can, have done some freelance stuff, longer form things for different outlets, and that can pay very well, but that's also often very time consuming. But I will sometimes do stuff although maybe not now, I've been reluctant to pitch them for political reasons, but The Observer has, been very great about printing often very in-depth and sort of obscure music commentary, given that it's a, general audience paper. The fact that they would run something about, Southern hip hop or Dallas music or whatever has been a pleasant surprise, although, obviously they're owned by who they're owned by. So that's a whole other sort of can of worms. The stuff that I do for Forbes is paid, but it varies depending on how many people look at it. That is something I do not as much for the money, but as for the platform, as for the name, as for the contacts, as for the people it can put me in the room with, and for the relationships of the people who work there, who are great and, do amazing stuff. That name, even though it's on the website and not in the print magazine, opens a lot of doors. And there are a lot of people in the music industry who aren't normally, don't normally get press for their business, who are willing to talk to me, who wouldn't be willing to talk to me for my podcast because it doesn't have enough listens or enough name recognition. I can get to go through the hoops at, a big record company to talk to Pusha T would take a long time, but when it comes to, talking about his, latest position at his record label, I can get him on the phone pretty easily because, his people approach me for the business side. So that I do less for money than for the people that it puts me in contact with. And I can sometimes siphon that into the podcast as well, so that, if you're in a room with someone, I can take up, 10 minutes of their time for a phoner, but sometimes I can stretch it to an hour and do a full interview. So, it's the contacts as well help with that. In Complex, I do a mixture of writing and editing, and that's news writing, and that's like, how quick can I turn around 250 words on whatever crazy thing has happened? And, can I manage to drop some original reporting into that? And that's sort of a ongoing challenge.
How do you find other outlets to write for to the degree that you have time, which I know is not much, like Sondheim Review, for example, or Thrillist? I know you wrote for recently. And
how did Thrillist happen? A lot of it is I was lucky enough when I was starting out at my old job. It was a website that one of the things that they did to get known was publish pieces in other outlets. And because it was a small company, I was the one writing almost all of them. So I was lucky enough to be able to get placements in places like GQ and The Source and things like that because I was working with this other outlet. And, once you have those kinds of clips, it becomes easier to approach people and say, hey, here's all this stuff I've done. I've also been very fortunate to have, people who are journalists who like and respect that I put a lot of research into stuff and am thoughtful about things. So they will say, hey, every once in a while they'll say, do you want to write a piece about this? And that happened, with the sound-alikes, basically records that are, copies of hit songs. And I had, someone I knew personally was sort of an intermediary at a now defunct website,
Right.
and said, do you want to write a long-form thing about this? But it was because we already knew each other, and he already knew that, I researched stuff thoroughly and wrote a lot. So it is a whole mix. In some ways, the freelance writing stuff is kind of like booking guests for the podcast, in that there's no straight line. Everything is just a sort of has its own story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there's connections to like the film world with there too. It's like you just kind of have to be out there doing stuff, putting together your clips, and meeting people, and impressing people with your work. And it, what goes around comes around in one form or another. Yeah,
and in fact, I got the Complex job because of a Forbes story I wrote about Soulja Boy that went viral because I talked to a publicist who kind of let something slip that he shouldn't have.
They're like, people like talking to you. They're going to tell you secrets.
Yeah.
Think how many more secrets you could get if you just got people drunk more often. I know you have a no weed policy on the show now.
It's true.
Sorry, am I not supposed to talk about that?
No, that's fine.
You don't
well,
let people...
no blunts, let's say that way. We had I can air it out, I think. We had a guy named Blunt Smoker on the show one time, and unsurprisingly he smoked a blunt. I know you're shocked.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like you probably should have seen that coming.
Yeah. And it was fine except the smell that it left in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was talking about more, you get better interviews, you were saying, out of people a lot of times
too.
when they're not high.
Yes,
sometimes...
yes, that has also happened where we find that, you can't control what people do before they come in, but in general, having them smoke and then talk for an hour, it can get a little unfocused.
Really? That doesn't sound like everything I've heard about weed, and I don't smoke, so
right.
So I just go off of what I've heard.
I don't know what anybody's talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, I think it's time for a game.
You guys want to play a game?
All right.
Let's play a game.
I'm very excited about this game.
Me too.
I think this may be the best game ever.
Ooh, is this a new game?
It's a new game.
A new game.
It's a new game, and it's not Uncle Sean's literary trivia, which it probably almost was.
Okay.
It almost was, except for I didn't write anything until I didn't write anything until this morning. So, but I feel like these came out very well for what it is. So we're gonna play Name That Shawn.
In honor of this episode. Does everybody at home get it? Because there's Shawn Mannion, who's half of 4 Mile Circus and co-host of this podcast, and then there's Shawn Setaro, a.k.a. Other Shawn, a.k.a. Same Old Shawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So
another Shawn is possible.
There's a lot of Shawns in the world, and so you're going to name that Shawn, and so I will read off the description of the Shawn, and then you can each tell me which one you think it is, and the winner, can have a glass of water. No, because you only get a pen for literary trivia.
Okay.
Because, pens and literature.
Oh.
So this one you can have a glass of water.
Because all Shawns drink water.
I mean, yeah.
That is true.
Obviously.
Yeah.
That is
I know. That's why I said it, because it's true.
Although at least one of these might drink blood. I don't know. So,
Interesting.
there's 3. So the first one, This five-head son of a bitch is part of a regime that is a threat to democracy and basic human decency. Nicole, who do you think it is?
Sean Spicer?
And
I got to go with Sean Spicer.
Sean Spicer. The answer is Sean Spicer. All right.
Yeah.
All right. That was the easy one. So number 2, an internet meme about this 00 agent suggests he doesn't survive most films he's in.
Is that Sean Connery?
My guess was also going to be Sean Connery.
Are you sure?
No, but I mean, I think maybe you're trying to mislead me, but that's my guess.
The correct answer is Sean Bean. He played 006 in GoldenEye, and there's an internet meme about how he doesn't survive anything because he dies in like Game of Thrones, and he dies in GoldenEye, and he dies in most movies he's in. I put the 00 in to fuck with you.
No, you were right. It wasn't because I was like, I don't know that meme about Sean Connery, but sure, maybe.
Wow, this is deceptive.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
You guys, the last batch of trivia was too easy for people, so I had to get a little harder with that one. All right, so this one, man, I don't know. I think this is sort of the middle of the road one. Could be easy, could be hard. So his plan was to take the car, go to Mum's, kill Phil, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for this all to blow over.
It's Shaun of the Dead.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'll go with Shaun of the Dead.
It was Shaun of the Dead.
All right.
I was trying to remember the character's last name, which I didn't remember.
I didn't even look up his last name. I think it's just Sean. It's
Very nice.
So that was a tie.
So it's a tie. So you can both have a glass of water.
Great.
I know Sean's as well as Sean knows Sean's.
That's true.
Everybody knows Sean's.
We all learned something today.
Yeah. So this has been the 4 Mile Circus podcast, and we are 4 Mile Circus. But who are you again?
I'm Sean.
And where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at theciphershow.com. That's Cipher with an I. At The Cipher Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or at Same Old Sean. That's SHAWN on Twitter.
Yeah, he spells it the wrong way. So,
Ooh. We're going to debate this later.
And by
Arm
debate,
wrestle. Yeah.
No, it's okay. You have the Hooked on Phonics version. We are 4 Mile Circus, 4milecircus.com, at 4 Mile Circus on Twitter, Instagram, and then /4 Mile Circus on Facebook. Next time, we'll talk to somebody else, and it'll be awesome. And we'll see y'all later.
Thank you, Nicole and Scene.
And goodbye. If you like what you heard, please subscribe on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, and check out other 4 Mile Circus services and projects at 4milecircus.com, as well as 4 Mile Circus on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Watch our first VOD release, Nicole's award-winning feminist phone sex horror comedy Small Talk, at 4milecircus.com/store,